Hey everybody, it's ShadowStar and Crystal here for our review of the Superman movie. So, well...
I will jump in and say, I never liked how they can just call a movie Superman.
I was going to...
How do you... And
I was about to say, it is a bit of an odd title because originally the movie was called Superman Legacy, but in development they dropped that.
Oh, that's
Some
why.
fans still online will call it that to help distinguish it. Because yes, I agree.
But it's not just a Superman or a superhero thing. It's a lot of other movies that might have remakes or whatever else, is that they'll use the same name. And, like, at first it's fine because you can say to someone, oh, the newest one. But years down the line, you might have to just remember, like, the year number or something.
I mean, we do...
Like if I say something like Annie, like...
Okay, but that's different because that's not an iteration, that's remakes. You're getting a... But, I mean, to be fair, they did that with, like, the Batman movies. And, like, to be fair, if you're going to distinguish it, sometimes we'll say, like, the Christopher Reeves Superman movie.
That's true. They can use actors for that.
Yeah. Or you'll put the year.
I will still never get the hang of keeping track of the Suicide Squad or...
Yes, I know, that's the worst one. Is how there's Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad, both within the same continuity, too.
Oh, they're not even separate versions.
They're not separate. Yeah.
Ugh.
So that's whatever.
But getting back to this movie...
The movie does several interesting things that divides fans, or not necessarily divides fans, but they take an interesting take. And it's stuff we kind of knew going into it, or at least I did, is the fact of this movie starts basically in the middle of the action. Now, if you saw the trailer and you saw that bit where he's in the snow and Krypto gets him, that's the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, some people might think that's like a middle climax. No. Oh, the hero loses for a moment.
I mean, it technically is, but it's at the beginning. We start in action.
I found that weird when it started, like, okay, this is how we do a beginning.
It's a fascinating thing because I knew going into it that we weren't going to have an origin story. And I'm okay with that because, like, let's be real.
Everyone knows Superman.
Everyone knows Superman. Everyone knows Batman's origin. So I'm okay with them not bothering with that because it would bog down the movie. That being said, it's not just, hey, this isn't Superman's origin, but it's also going with the idea of not only is this a universe where metahumans have existed, they've existed for literally hundreds of years at this point.
That's true. They said 300 years ago was when metahumans came along.
Yeah. So we have a pre-established universe, but this is basically the first movie of this new rebooted DCU. So it's a bit of an interesting take, which some people don't mind it. Others say the movie can get a little too crowded at times.
The whole thing of metahumans being that old, it kind of reminds me of a little thing that confused me in one of the Arrowverse shows, which was that people act like the beginning of Flash was when metahumans were more or less established with the particle accelerator. But then in Invasion, they said 50 years ago, metahumans, oh, he's talking about the JSA.
I mean, to be fair, yeah, that's the problem with the Arrowverse. It tried to have its cake and eat it too, where the JSA was semi-public knowledge, but also metahumans were, I guess, it depends. It's not sure how public knowledge with the JSA, but here it's undeniable. The whole world knows metahumans to the point where it's just an accepted thing. It's more similar to what Supergirl did, where in Supergirl, the TV show, aliens were already fairly commonplace. Like, they didn't have to deal with that. They were already deep into it.
Yeah, because the first episode is her being exposed as Supergirl, but Superman was already established.
Which, to be fair, it's sort of like Superman and Lois, where we have a Superman who's already got some history behind him. This Superman's been active for 3 years, whereas we don't have to worry about an origin story. Again, it's like Superman and Lois, or like wondering about Superman from the Supergirl TV show, where we don't know what adventures he's had, what villains has he faced, how long did it take him to get familiar with things.
Which was why the Supergirl show was able to take things that were originally Superman things, like Bizarro or whatever, which is supposed to be a Superman storyline. They could take that and say, well, in this world, it didn't happen to him.
Speaking of which, I'm going to blatantly say now, the title will say it, but just one reminder, everything is open for discussion. We haven't spoiled anything yet, but there will be spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an interesting take. But again, I don't mind it because, as I've said when I watch TV shows, opening beginnings can be slow. But at the same time, seeing people argue that it's not necessarily that we needed a Superman origin story, but it feels like there's a little bit too much pre-established, like some of the other heroes, and we're just supposed to go along with it. Like, okay, here's the thing: while even the most common person understands Superman, the most common person isn't going to understand some of these other characters who could have given a tiny bit more background to the other characters.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Especially if you're not dedicated. Like, we know some of them, but if you're not a hardcore fan, you're not going to know the backstories of characters
But
other than
also,
Superman.
because it's a separate iteration from other stuff I've seen, it took me a moment to figure out. So he's already Superman, but does Lois know? Yes, she does. But it took me a second to. I was like,
because
so
they
does
trick you.
Lois?
Because they trick you too.
Because she talks as if she doesn't to screw with him.
Yeah,
and then I was like, does Jimmy know?
Does he? I don't think he does.
I don't think. Unless he was screwing with...
I don't think he does, but it'd be funny if neither of them knew that the other one know, but I don't think Jimmy knows.
I guess not, because from what I've heard about other canons, because of course this Jimmy's nothing like the James in Supergirl.
To be fair, the James from Supergirl was barely a Jimmy in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, you've got to remember, you come from the Arrowverse where a lot of things, especially in Supergirl, were not accurate. I'm sorry. But the characters you saw here,
like Cat Grant,
which Jimmy, and Supergirl, are not
Yes,
nowhere.
I get it. This Jimmy is more faithful, and from what I've heard about other versions, that he's supposed to be his best friend, and I feel like he usually does know.
In most canons he would know, but it doesn't seem that he knew here. The only characters who seemed to know the only characters who knew were Lois and the Justice Gang. Nobody else knew.
Yeah.
And his parents. But that's about it.
But speaking of characters, this movie was pretty good, but one of my major gripes is that some of the characters were a bit lacking in terms of, like, they were just kind of there and didn't add much.
They add it feels like there's no in-betweens. You've got some characters, like, say, obviously you've got the core trio, like Superman, Lex, and Lois, and then I'll also say one character outside of that trio steals the spotlight, Mr. Terrific. But everyone else, like, okay, Green Lantern does a little bit in the fights, Hawkgirl's barely there, and pretty much everyone in the Daily Planet doesn't do much.
Yeah.
Jimmy a little bit near the end.
Oh, Jimmy was kind of a hero in some ways.
But otherwise, all the other characters, like, none of the Daily Planet stuff.
I feel like, Cat Grant is just there.
She has
just
2 lines.
They wanted
it's
to
like, let's just
represent
throw her in there.
her.
And they say her name like once. If you blink and miss it, you wouldn't even know it's Cat Grant.
Yeah, but I've seen people point out, well, she's there because, in comics, she's supposed to be there. She's part of the background team.
Now, here's the thing I'm going to point out, because you had never finished Supergirl. There is actually an episode near the end of season 6 where they go into the past and meet Cat Grant, and she is more comic accurate because she's younger, she dresses more overtly, and so on. You've got to remember, you're used to an older Cat Grant.
True. This version of Cat Grant, though, my problem with some of the characters is that if you can remove them and the story doesn't change, then why even have them there?
I mean, it's just to say here's the thing. She could have just been... It's the thing, though, is for a comic book fan like us, we could go, hey, there's Cat Grant. If you're one of the more regular people in the theatre, you don't know who Cat Grant is anyway, so you just think, whatever, it's just another Daily Planet worker. She's a background character who says a line or two, so you don't have to worry too much.
Speaking of Cat Grant, the other character that I was a bit iffy on was Supergirl at the end. Not because her personality is not what I was used to, but again with the thing of, like, I would have been okay with it if Supergirl showed up towards the end, as in end of the story shows up to help. But here, she just kind of shows up and, like, again, you could remove her.
No, what I was going to say is, that scene, it feels like It feels like something you usually use that as like a mid-credits.
To set up because she might be getting her own movie.
She is next year getting a movie. But that you're right.
My issue with that is that a cameo to tease the next movie should not come at the expense of this movie having a character that does nothing.
It didn't. I wouldn't count that because that's not like.
I know.
That would be different. Saying it comes at the expense of doing nothing would imply that she was in the movie. She's not in the movie. That scene really feels like what you usually expect that to be like, hey, a mid-credits, hey, look, Supergirl.
Yeah,
so like
true.
what they do with the Sonic movies.
I didn't mind it too much.
It was still literally the last real scene, so I wouldn't really worry about that.
Yeah. Let me get to my main example.
One thing, actually, while we're on the topic of Supergirl, though, it does actually, I wouldn't say foreshadow, but it does explain a good element of the movie, though. With Supergirl having this characterization, which is more faithful to its counterparts anyway, it explains Krypto.
Oh, yeah,
it explains his behavior and explains why it doesn't truly get along very well with Superman and it's a bit unruly because it suits her, not him.
Yeah, and one thing I did love with Krypto is that he wasn't just there as like, oh, look, Superman has a dog. He did play an important part, a very important part. I love to jokingly say, the real hero is Krypto, and we won because he played with a ball. Because, remember, I loved that bit.
Oh, yeah.
The great part was that they set it up early on when he was destroying Mr. Terrific's balls. And then later on, Superman was like, oh, hey, Lex, you need those to see what's going on. Krypto, get the ball.
Yes, that was actually very well integrated again. And I like they used Krypto sparingly, too. Like, you had a little bit at the beginning, and obviously, but then and what I like is, Krypto is actually the damsel in distress for a good part of the movie.
Yeah. He gets to, and Superman's like, all right, where's my dog?
I like that, though.
It's a dog.
I like that, though.
Yeah.
Krypto is actually kind of the damsel in distress for a good portion of the movie till we save him.
And then Superman sort of is. Sort of.
No, you're right.
Because Lois has to get Mr. Terrific and say, he's kidnapped. We gotta go.
But then
he does get out because he convinces the guy with the baby to get to turn off the kryptonite and
one thing people have said is that this is one of the best Lexes we've ever seen. He feels like a more complete version of the Smallville Lex. He definitely, because he's a bit of a younger Lex, he feels almost like if you took Smallville Lex to the extreme and made him a proper villain. Like, I understand Lex was a kind of a villain in Smallville near the end, but this is proper unhinged all the way. It's kind of like you kind of like take a little bit of the personality from John Cryer's Lex and mix it with the youthfulness of Smallville Lex, and you get this Lex.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
That's true.
I haven't seen enough.
You've seen a few episodes of Smallville, and you haven't seen much of Supergirl. I mean, you have, but you never got to see Lex.
Yeah. Okay, getting back to one thing was Hawk Girl that I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
She's one character
who barely had anything.
Maybe it was because she was too neutral. Part of me felt like they were just like, okay, we've got Green Lantern to turn on him, we've got Mr. Terrific to support and help Lois, but we probably need a third guy to make it feel like a team, so we'll pick someone to throw in.
Isn't that the most random-ass team you've ever seen?
Yeah, true.
It's like, it's like, even if you're somebody devoted to comics, it's like, okay, Superman's got 3 people. Who should we go for? Mr. Terrific, Green Lantern, and Hawk Girl. Mr. Terrific's a bit of the odd one, though, because, like, I get Hawk Girl in the comics is a bit more in the Justice League, and so is a Green Lantern, but then you throw Mr. Terrific, and he turns out to be probably the most important one of the set.
Yeah.
Whereas...
But yeah, that was my issue with Hawk Girl, is it feels like she's kind of there. Maybe the issue is that she was too neutral on the thing of, like, on one end, Green Lantern turned on him right away when they saw the message, and whereas... Mr. Terrific, he didn't go right away when Lois talked to them, but then after she walked out, he went with her. But then Hawkgirl, it was like she had no opinion at all.
True.
She was too neutral
Well,
that
you
it
say
just
neutral,
felt
though,
like...
but one thing people say is interesting about his team is they are more his team, but they don't necessarily follow his perfect ideals.
True.
During
Like with that monster thing, he was like, well, we could take it somewhere and euthanize it. And they were like, no, we'll
Or
kill
at
it.
the ending climax when, everyone's like, okay, we're saving the people, but then she's still going the completely aggressive route of just straight up killing the leader of that country too.
Oh, yeah, she did.
Yeah. So again, it's a case of, but some people like that. Some people like that we don't have that perfect team that's all following his ideals. They're more just, let's do the mission.
Which is why it also feels weird that they give Hawkgirl that role of all people, because the Hawkgirl I know feels like...
Okay, but the Hawkgirl is stupid.
True, but I feel like she wouldn't just kill.
That doesn't matter. You're talking about one of the worst Hawkgirls anyone's ever seen. And it turns out, once again, of the team, this is also a very lackluster Hawkgirl.
I guess so, yeah.
Can we have some more accurate Hawkgirls, please?
Yeah, I feel like she should have, had more of an opinion, especially because she was the only representation of a woman superhero, unless you count Lois as, a hero in this story.
True, which I'm okay with.
I know Superman's the protagonist. I'm not asking for the movie to be about girl power, but I'm saying because she's the one woman hero in this, I wish her role was not so small compared to Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific.
True, but
if they could have been more equal.
A common argument people have asked is that some people say Mr. Terrific and Green Lantern took up too much time anyway. The characters that you're supposed to care about are Superman, Lois, Lex, and the Daily Planet people. Those are all core Superman characters.
True, but I liked Mr. Terrific with Lois in their side stuff.
But in the end, it's a Superman movie, not the Mr. Terrific movie. I know we're not doing that movie now, but I am curious, what's the Supergirl movie gonna be like? Here's the thing, we have a Supergirl that's more comic accurate in the sense that she's not here to be a hero. Because again, in the comics, she is more like that because it makes sense. If you think about it, it actually makes sense.
Yeah, she gets there and there's already Superman.
But it's not just she gets there and there's already Superman. But if you think about it, Superman can be happy and optimistic because he doesn't know any better. Supergirl was old enough to have lived all through Krypton and miss the planet and have PTSD, etc. So if you think about it, this Supergirl makes way more sense with her origins than our Supergirl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because of the second half of that message.
That's also a point people have wondered is, A, since they claim the message is truly authentic, A, can Supergirl understand it? B, does she know about it? And C, if she has good memories of Krypton, does her memories match up with that mentality that we see from the message?
True, because yes, this Superman, he never got to see the second half of the message. He just interpreted his own, okay, they probably want me to be a good person. And if we assume that all the characters are right when they say, yes, because Lex recovered the full version, that's what it was, then what are Supergirl's memories of before she left home?
Also, since we're talking about the message, can I talk about how good that bookends moment is? At the end, when he's injured again.
Oh, yeah, I loved when the robots are like, it soothes him, show him his parents, and it's his adoptive parent.
That was actually a really good bookends moment. Again, I will say, they set up some things really well that I do love.
You know what it kind of, sort of, tiny bit reminds me of? The second half of the message.
Okay.
The whole revelation. For one thing, he found out in the worst way, because he found it at the same time everybody else was seeing it. It kind of a tiny bit reminds me of Dragon Ball Z. Stick with me here. The way Raditz shows up and is like, you were supposed to have, you were supposed to have already been conquering.
It's ironic because, Dragon Ball Z is a ripoff of Superman, and now we have Superman doing a ripoff, because it's not. The only other time that's ever happened, as far as I know, is there was sort of some elements of that in Smallville, but no other iteration, even in comics, have done that type of angle. So again, we're kind of stealing from Dragon Ball Z, which is already stealing from Superman anyway.
True, true. But now, yeah, it does remind me of that. The way it's like, well, you were supposed to have already been conquering this planet, and he didn't know. And yeah,
Yeah, you're right. No, other people have pointed that out. It is funny.
yeah,
And it is interesting having a world with no origins because we know we're getting a Supergirl movie and we know we're getting a Batman movie. So it's interesting to have these characters in a world which A, Superman's been here for 3 years, B, metahumans and other stuff exists. So again, also I love how I always enjoy when we can squeeze in any background character or any. That's the thing. I know you say, oh, people like Cat Grant do anything, but I'm like, okay, saying Cat Grant is here, it's sort of like how when you had a background, a 1 second line by like Maxwell Lord. Again,
oh yeah, yes.
I like that we just throw in a character. It's sort of like how
I also saw. Never
Like-
mind, I forgot the name.
but like, was it Stag Industries?
Yes, that's what it was.
And like there was billboards for like Big Belly Burger and Jitters.
Yes, Big Belly Burger and Jitters, and I immediately thought, oh, okay, those exist on this world.
But again, I like that because that's the thing. Cat Grant or Maxwell Lord, they're more like glorified background details. Nothing that no casual person is going to get.
Yeah, they
But
don't
it's like,
need
it's
to
just a
match
case-
anything.
It's just a case of Or, and I know you won't notice, but there was also a different cameo halfway through the movie just to remind you that although this is the rebooted universe, it kind of still sort of has elements of the old DCEU because we did get a cameo from Peacemaker, which I immediately leapt out of my seat when I saw.
I think I know which guy you mean.
He had a one line cameo when they were like after the message and there's all this shit on the news.
Yeah, I know he was a guy.
He was on some sort of talk show.
Yeah,
and I love that too because it fits it perfectly that he would immediately speak out against him.
Yeah, I
So it's
don't
like,
know
oh, that
anything
makes me-
about him, but I saw him and I was like, that's got to mean something.
I was so happy when I saw that little cameo. So yeah, I like that they are tying things organically because one thing that James Gunn has said about this universe is while there might be the occasional cameo or reference, it's not going to be the biggest integrated universe like say the Marvel universe sometimes is or the old DCEU was. It was basically established outside of the occasional small cameo. You can watch any movie without seeing previous ones.
Yeah.
Unless it's literally a direct sequel. In other words, if you don't see a number in front of it, assume you can watch it without any major background details.
Yeah.
Which makes me again curious about, like, say, the Supergirl movie. How much, if you can supposedly watch that without seeing this movie.
Probably.
Because I'm like, how
Because
much...
it's not Superman 2, it's Supergirl.
True, but I'm like, where do you go with that movie? Because she doesn't spend much time on Earth. Is it going to... some theories I heard some people say is it'll start with her, like, off-world doing her own thing, and then she comes to Earth and she has to learn to be a bit more of a hero. But she showed up at the end of the movie in her Supergirl outfit,
True.
which implies she has been doing heroics.
I guess. I don't
Now,
know.
there's another interesting point about Supergirl. Again, I'm sorry, it's not her movie right now, but when they get to her movie, I'm curious what's she called. We're used to a Supergirl which is called Kara in both forms.
but there's a Linda.
In some versions, her civilian name is not Kara. I'm curious which one they're going to go
I read
with.
a random comic somewhere and she was Linda, and also she wore a wig. She had a brown wig to the point where I didn't... Because with comics, it's even harder to recognize faces.
I wouldn't be
For
surprised.
a second, I didn't realize that's who it was.
They
with
did
the
do a
brown
little bit of a
hair.
reference to that in season 4 of Supergirl, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. But it'll be interesting what they do with this Supergirl, and I am excited for that movie. But yeah, speaking of which, another thing people have liked is, because it's a movie where you're mostly focusing on Superman, but we've all got all these other comic book characters. Have you noticed anything? Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific. At no point are they not wearing their outfits.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Terrific is in his outfit and mask the entire time.
Well, yeah, because it's just the way the story played out is that they showed up and then the stuff happened, and of course I guess they happened to be in costume when Lois found their headquarters thing. How did she find where they were? Is that public knowledge?
I can't remember. I can't remember how I'm trying to remember. How did she find him again?
I know there was a thing where she asked Jimmy for something. I don't know if that was that.
No. She asked Jimmy. No, Jimmy said because she didn't know Jimmy's inside details was Eve.
Oh yeah, that's something I was gonna get to. Is Eve is a character that kind of surprised me. Okay, with no context of whether she has a counterpart and what that's like, Eve kind of threw me off because okay, a regular viewer with no context, you see her first scenes taking selfies. And someone might think, okay, maybe she's just this girl who wants to be around Lex because he's rich and powerful and soon gonna rule over half a country or something.
Which, to be fair, that is comic book accurate. It's also what happened in, I think, the Christopher Reeves movie.
But then she ends up being sort of a hero because she sends the selfies. And before they discovered it, I was thinking it and I thought, I was like, wait a minute, I remember she took selfies like in front of a window with stuff going on in the background or in the snow near the fortress. So I'm like, yeah, I was thinking it. I was like, look closely at her selfies. That probably is the information.
She's kind of an amalgamation of different types of Eves because like there's Eve Tessmacher from the Christopher Reeves movie, which is just this kind of fawny little dumb girl who follows Lex around. There's kind of the smart Eve from Supergirl who at one point is revealed to be working for Lex, but then she betrays him. So she's kind of a mixture of different types of Eves. So it works perfectly well.
Yeah.
Yeah. One character, it's weird how they throw names around so much that again, it's sort of like with Cat where you blink and you miss it. Just like how you blink and you miss it, you might not realize that one of Lex's henchmen is Otis Graves. And like he's like in name only at that point.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Exactly, that's my point. He's like in name only. He really doesn't line up with everything at all.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. There's no in-betweens. Everyone's either a very faithful adaptation or just kind of an in-name only, here they are.
Oh yeah, one person I was curious to know more about in terms of like backstory and stuff is Lex had two people. There was a guy and there was that girl. The girl I kind of was curious about, you know?
I don't know.
I forgot the name.
They just called her the engineer. I don't know if she's a big character or a small character in the comics. I've never seen I've watched lots of movies and I've watched in a lot of shows. I've never seen any character that matches her whatsoever. I'm pretty sure she's not 100% original, but I don't know if she's like super duper obscure or not.
Yeah, because that's a problem if you don't show origins for characters, not just your hero, but for villain characters. You see her do stuff like when she recovered the message, and I'm like, who is this and why can she do what she does? You know, what is she capable of? I don't know.
Well, okay, tying into that scene though at the beginning of the fortress, I like how for a long time they actually leave you hanging on one thing.
I was like, how do you get in? And he just walked up to the door.
And I think it was her or one of the other people with him were like, how'd you get in? And he just doesn't say anything, or he's like, I have my ways or whatever. And it's not till later in the movie, because if you remember,
and he says, it's because you had that guy with my DNA.
Yes, the guy with him was the Bizarro clone that he had.
They didn't use the word Bizarro, they used something else.
No, but for all intents and purposes, it is Bizarro.
Okay, yeah.
It may as well be, but yeah.
Because I've seen some people point out this Superman is so against killing, but he sent that guy into the black hole.
That is often, it is an odd point where like...
But I guess it was like he was desperate. There was like a bus coming at them both or something, and he just couldn't save him.
That's true. That one is clearly far more self-defense, whereas people criticize in Man of Steel when he has to kill the villain, whose name I already forget because Man of Steel is a shit movie. Speaking of Man of Steel, I do find it interesting because one thing I didn't like about Man of Steel is a similar problem we're going to have again. In this movie, half of Metropolis was destroyed. It became a Roland Emmerich film halfway through. When the crack is coming through, sure, they say everyone's evacuated, but the whole freaking city was destroyed.
I was so much destruction.
It became a Roland Emmerich film where destruction is everywhere. I'm like, okay, even if
I didn't like, and then towards the end, they actually made it seal back closed. And I was like, is that really how that works?
Well, no, the gap may have sealed, but all the buildings were still completely destroyed beyond
True,
repair.
and then there was that extra little moment where he was like, it's still kind of off, and Mr. Terrific's like, oh, there's no pleasing you.
Yeah, that was the most random ass thing. Because that was
It was the tiniest.
But that was at the end of the credits.
Oh yeah, the end, the extra. Nobody else. There was one other guy in the theater. Everybody left.
Yeah, because usually we always sit through the end because, like, what if there's something? And I was like, oh, good, there is something. And it was the most pointless something I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that was such a pointless scene, but whatever.
But again, it's such a weird... It's that Man of Steel problem with, like, okay, the city is beyond destroyed. Even if they, like, lined the buildings up, it's still completely destroyed. So, like, come the sequel or come the next movie in this universe, you're still going to have that Man of Steel problem where things are destroyed and it's going to take forever to rebuild. And what do you do with that story?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. But, yeah, we've rambled on. We've jumped all over the place.
Yeah. One thing, I have to mention my thoughts on crypto,
Okay.
which I touched on it a bit, but one thing that the tiniest nitpick though was I feel like they couldn't decide whether he's smart and obedient or not, because mostly at the start there was this like fake out where
when he's in the snow.
yeah, he tells him to drag me home and he just sits there and doesn't do it for a bit, and I think it's meant to fake out the audience to make him think, oh haha, it's just a dumb dog, it won't actually do it. And then he does.
Oh, you know what I thought though? Maybe, if you think about it, maybe that we don't know how much time he spends with crypto. Maybe the whole point of the story, or at least an ongoing theme, is him learning. Because like you said, one of the bits you loved was him, like, destroying the property. He knows that crypto's destructive. He used his destructive tendencies to the advantage rather than the disadvantage.
Yeah, because he
He
saw
learned how crypto behaves.
when they were in the pocket dimension and
Yeah.
and then he realized Mr. Terrific was there. He had to tell him, don't destroy that ball, we need that one. And then towards the end, yeah, it was like
He learned how to
crypto,
use his destructive...
crypto,
Yes.
get the toy.
He learned how to use his destructive properties rather than trying to just get around it.
But you still need him to be obedient so that you can tell him which balls to destroy and which not to.
True. But again, yeah, it is an odd point. They can't decide whether... It's like the movie doesn't know what they're going to do with crypto.
Yeah.
And the movie just wants to put crypto in for, cuteness factor.
True. I mean, Crypto got his own movie because there was that weird Secret Life of Pets DC heroes. They had Crypto. I don't know who else. They had McSnurdle the Turtle, I think.
I don't know.
I didn't watch it because it's a cartoon. It's not live action. We actually got a real Crypto here.
I mean, we've had real crypto in this, in Smallville, in Titans, and in Superman and Lois.
Okay.
We've had quite a few cryptos, but not all of them has been... This is probably the most faithful live-action crypto we've had.
Okay.
I think the one in Titans is also fairly faithful, but that's about it. Yeah. There was one other point I was about to mention, but I got distracted because you talked about crypto.
Oops.
It's fine. I will say, yeah, because it's like I do agree that one of the coolest action scenes in the movie doesn't even belong to Superman. It's that bit where him and Mr. Terrific and Lois go there towards where the portal is and are on the beach and all the people are trying to stop Mr. Terrific.
Oh, yeah. And Lois is, like, amazed that, like, he makes the shield thing.
And then he just fights all the people. And that turns out to be one of the best fight scenes. And it's not even Superman's fight scene.
Yeah, that worked pretty well.
Yeah, but that's a problem. Some people criticize it. Some people criticize, have we given too much screen time to Mr. Terrific?
No, I think it was just enough. If it were a bit more, I might agree, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't mind it. The one thing, there's a funny line here, and some people aren't sure whether to take it as a joke or whether it was serious. There's that bit where, like, Lois goes to the Hall of Justice, and they're talking with Green Lantern and everyone about how she knows him, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, but did you know he has hypno glasses? And fans aren't whether to tell whether he was joking and Lois went along with it, or whether he wasn't. Now, it's odd that if that is a real thing, I will say, This is the most distinct difference between a Clark and Superman I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, his physical appearance when he's not Superman actually looks far different compared to, people always joke, oh, Superman barely looks different, just glasses. Like,
yeah, they do make him look pretty different.
his hair and his style really look different. It's actually the most distinctive difference we've seen in live action between a Superman and a Clark. Although, a criticism some people have is, what's funny? This is the first usually with movies, any movie, particularly superhero movies or superhero movies, you worry they're going to be too long. It's funny how there was not a single slow scene, a single dull scene.
That's true.
And
when I first found out the runtime, I thought that might feel long, but it didn't. It didn't actually feel long.
The pace brisked along pretty good, but to two detriments. One detriment is, I'd say about only less than 20% of the movie, probably even 10 to 15% of the movie, is he Clark. He's a little bit in the Daily Planet, and then there's that fake interview scene with Lois. That's it. The whole movie he stays in his Superman outfit. But also the whole movie takes place in about a day or two.
True.
And all the other characters stay in their outfits.
Yeah.
So you don't get to even see this much of Clark as Clark, which again, the downsides of having no origin is, in a way, it's interesting because on one hand you would think, okay, you don't get much personality because you don't get to see him outside of Superman, but they do a good job with that fake interview scene of at least they give you a good chance to show what type of Superman he is. That kind of blind optimism where
Oh, yeah, true.
I like that scene because directing-wise, they don't necessarily paint either character as right or wrong. I know some lazy people will say, well, Superman's a hero, he's supposed to think everything he says is right. But, like, I like that both Lois and Superman raise good points.
Yeah, he's a bit naive in some ways.
Exactly. He's got that kind of naive optimism of just save anyone. But Lois raises a good point, which has been raised occasionally in superhero movies, is do superheroes have a right to intervene in
because it's like
political affairs?
If two countries are at war and you think, oh, I'll save anyone, it kind of looks like you're siding with that one, which it did, because towards the end, there's that bit where those children make a Superman flag, and it's like, well, it sure looks like you've allied yourself with that one.
True, but there's a difference. Here's the thing. Usually we've seen superheroes do that, and they're usually siding with America. Think of it even in what you're familiar with, like, say, the JSA. They're fighting the Nazis. Sure, Nazis are an easy target, blah, blah, blah. In this movie, the Americans are siding with, I don't know, I can't remember the damn names of the countries, but the same one that Lex is funding.
Yeah.
And it's Superman who stands up against that country, which is why the whole controversy of the movie is, the world is upset that Superman is siding with the side that...
Oh, they're upset he's siding with that one,
That's the whole point.
Americans people are siding with the other one.
Exactly, but that's the whole kind of controversy of the movie, which I do like that kind of... Because at first people would say, well, Superman, you're supposed to represent America. But no, Superman... No. I like it too, because one... Superman represents everyone, but two, Superman represents the little guy. Also, it reminds me of this very good scene in Superman and Lois where there's a submarine crashing and then Superman saves it, but then the general gets upset because that submarine was a North Korean submarine. But again, so I like that occasionally you see that in superhero movies where they touch on that detail, but it's one you don't often see touched on, which I get, because, I get wanting to just... As a writer, you want to stay away from that more tricky discussions.
Yeah.
Whereas this movie most assuredly different. Now, here's the interesting thing. Going into this movie, we were told that's going to be parallels to regular events, but the movie's been in writing for some time. It feels like it's both a parallel to the conflict in the Middle East, but also a parallel to Russia and Ukraine, especially with the country that Lex is funding having more of a sort of Russian or Slavic accent.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And also, I couldn't take the leader seriously because I recognize that actor from 2012, but it actually works kind of well for the character he's playing.
Yeah, I did think to myself, wait, if these are fictional countries, did they make a fictional language?
No, I'm pretty sure they're speaking either Russian or Slavic or something like that. I don't know which one. But
I didn't know this.
Yeah. But... I mean, to be fair, it is, again, not uncommon for that's the thing. Unlike Marvel, DC prefers to have everything be fictional countries, fictional places, etc.
It's just easier because then even if there's a parallel,
You can claim that
You can get away with it.
You can get away with it way more by not having it be a one-for-one thing.
yeah.
Whereas, like, Marvel tends to do that thing where, like, Spider-Man just lives in New York City, whereas here you've got fake cities like Metropolis and so on.
Yeah, but these fake cities are still so obviously in America.
True. Well, that's the thing. America exists, but then you've got fake countries like the two that are in this movie, or other places we've seen have fake countries as well. So it works. And again, it's one of those things where I was nervous when I knew that, okay, they're going to have some quote-unquote political stuff, but I think they actually handled it surprisingly well for an incredibly delicate subject right now.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But all in all, was there any other point we forgot to bring up?
I don't think so. I feel like there was a second ago where I had something and I lost it, so whatever.
But all in all, look, like I said, there's nitpicks I can have, but this is an incredibly good Superman. Way better than Henry Cavill. Probably, I mean, it's only been a movie, but he'll probably go tying up there with Tyler Hoechlin as my top 2 favorite Supermen right now.
Mm.
And I've seen quite a few Supermen. The Lex we've got is an incredibly well done Lex. Like, okay, you've got the slightly more older and very hammy Lex you've got from John Cryer, but other than that, he's kind of a middle ground. Like,
yeah, he works great.
In a scale of Lexes, you've got the very down-to-earth, very basic villains like the Gene Hackman Lex, or even the Lex from Smallville. Then you've got this Lex who's youthful and off his hinges, but not necessarily as off his hinges as, say, John Cryer's, but kind of getting close to it.
Okay.
You can see that. But again, I like the kind of backflipping on Lex's ideals. At first you think, okay, yeah, it makes sense that Lex would do all this just for the money or the political power.
Yeah, but then he straight up admits, of course it's jealousy.
Exactly.
He's just like, no, I did all this stuff as an excuse to kill you.
But I love a self-aware Lex, and that's one thing most good Lexes have been, is self-aware enough. But also, we don't know, is this the first confrontation this Superman has had with Lex?
I don't know.
It feels like it is, but at the same time, Lex seems to have quite a bit of a grudge against him.
Oh, yeah, I did remember. One thing is that we complimented the pacing, and I think the thing that helps the pacing work so well is giving up having an origin. Because
origins can be very slow, then you've got to skip ahead to present day.
Comparing it to, well, I won't say what, but let's just say there's a certain other superhero movie that I know of where they wanted to have it all. They wanted to have an origin story, but they also wanted to be able to completely defeat the big villain. In order to do that, they very much sacrificed pacing and also had to have a big time skip in the middle that sacrifices character development because they had to have an origin and then somehow skip over to have some time pass to be able to defeat that villain that would normally take a while to defeat.
I mean, you could be referring to both Man of Steel and the Christopher Reeves movies. Because I'm like, in the Christopher Reeves movie, it's like 50 minutes before he's back in present day. And then, like, you get a little bit of the lower stuff, and then it's suddenly, we very quickly, super easily defeat Lex. And then the Man of Steel movie has a horrible beginning and a very bad pacing with his origin story, which we've seen a million times. Also, something that this Superman movie did that most other Superman movies or even shows don't do, or other way around, is both his parents are alive. In almost every Superman mythos, his father dies. In the opening of Christopher Reeve's movie, his father dies. In the Man of Steel movie, his father dies in one of the worst scenes ever. In Smallville, his father dies. Spoilers.
Okay.
In Superman and Lois, his father is already dead by the time we get to the start of the show. Which, again, it works because in most of those instances, except Man of Steel, the whole point is his father usually dies of cancer or a heart attack, etc. which is meant to be sort of a life lesson for Superman to remember you can't save everyone. There are some things in life you can't
because
avoid.
it's a natural thing that just happens.
But it is interesting they decided to kind of forego that, and you just get his parents kind of, they're fine, there's nothing wrong with them. That's the case with every character, is there's no character that's bad. The only criticism we get is the characters are just there. His parents are fine, but they're barely in it. Certain characters like Hawk Girl, they're like, nothing's wrong with Hawk Girl, but she doesn't do much.
Yeah.
And you could say the same a little bit
like
with
you
Green
could
Lantern.
switch her with some other hero and it wouldn't matter.
Exactly. And you could say that with a lot of characters.
I've seen some people say like they could have used Wonder Woman or something. I don't know.
That wouldn't work.
Okay.
Wonder Woman's too big of a character. You would not do that.
True. But there's so many other heroes that you could swap into
I get
her
why
place.
they picked those characters though. Because like someone also said like, oh, you need somebody who's a tech genius who's Batman's second in command, Superman's second in command. Why couldn't it be Batman? Simple. He's too big of a name.
True.
That would steal the spot. I mean, we joked.
Mr. Terrific worked well for his role.
Exactly. He's not big enough to steal the spotlight, but that's why you need everyone to not be super big names. Like, I get Green Lantern's kind of a big name, but not so much outside of comic books.
Plus, there's like multiple Green Lanterns.
There's multiple Green Lanterns. Most people outside of comic books, or if you've not seen the Arrowverse, most people have never heard of Mr. Terrific, and Hawkgirl's kind of just there. So again, they pick characters that the casual fans are not going to be super familiar with. Whereas, like, you're not going to have, say, Batman or Wonder Woman be his other characters, because they're too big of a names.
Yeah, true.
So you pick characters they're kind of okay characters in the Justice League, but not big names that could distract you. So it works.
Makes me wonder what other characters we'd see in a Supergirl movie.
I have no idea. I don't know how much we know about that movie, because we probably will. I'll imagine either early next year or maybe late this year we'll get a sneak peek or a trailer. That's when we'll get more information. I don't think we know anything other than just it's a Supergirl movie starring that Supergirl. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get more info as time comes.
Because otherwise she would not have been at the end of this one, because it's like, why go to all the trouble of casting a big name of Supergirl?
No, we knew going into this, we knew we were getting a Supergirl movie next year. That part we knew.
Yeah.
We don't have any trailers. We'll probably get some later on. The only thing we know for sure is we're getting a Supergirl movie, and we're getting a Batman movie. I think it's next year, or maybe it's a year after. But again, we don't know anything about this universe's Batman. We will eventually, but given the fact that this is a pre-established world, again, it raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, and that's the problem with, this movie is a separate universe from anything else that's previously existed. But then the Supergirl movie is going to be within the same one as this, so I don't know how it's going to connect.
Well, it is going to connect. It's going to be her.
Yeah.
But the question is, when is it going to take place? Is it going to be like partly taking place during this movie? Is it going to be even further into the future than this movie? How connected is she to this movie, or is it just something case like how I know, like we said, James Gunn claims you won't need to have seen other movies to enjoy it. So I'm like, how much can you do with that without making the audience feel like they've missed anything from this movie?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's easy to do. I'm just curious, where will we start it? Where will we go? But I guess we'll worry about that. That's for the future, I guess. But like I said, the biggest points of this movie is pretty much all the casting is great. The soundtrack is good, by the way. I haven't mentioned the soundtrack is really good in the sense of they don't hammer you over the head, but I like that occasionally they sneak into the John Williams theme.
Oh, yeah.
Occasionally they'll sneak into that familiar theme while also having their own original theme.
The casting was great, and I will say, despite what her role was, Hawkgirl's casting, I don't know if you've seen her in anything before. I have. And let me tell you, girl's got range.
I don't know, what have you seen her in?
Dora.
Okay.
There was a live action Dora.
Yes, I remember that.
And that was her.
Wait. Hawkgirl was Dora the Explorer?
Yes.
Oh my god.
And this other movie I watched called Instant Family, she was great in that. And it, again, a very, very different personality character.
I mean, that's fair. I don't recognize a lot. I know Green Lantern's been in a few things, but I haven't seen them. I don't think I've seen literally anything that just Superman's been in this, Lex has been in this, Lois has been in. I think Perry White has been other people before. I can't remember. And obviously, the president of that country, I've seen him in one other thing, but like, they pick a good range of people who aren't the biggest names in the world. But like that's what I like. The cast wasn't distracting, because sometimes if you pick the biggest names in the world, they can be distracting simply because you know them.
Like when people said that about Detective Pikachu.
Sure. You could say that about lots of things.
Yeah.
Or the Sonic cast for Keanu Reeves, or the guy playing Knuckles.
True. At least Tails was faithful.
Yeah. But again, they picked a good variety and all the casting works very well. There's no character where I'm like, God, this is just played off. But like, all the casting is great. The portrayal of every character is great. This is the best Superman we've ever seen. I mean, there's been plenty of other good ones, but like, after the mess that was after the mess was Henry Cavill, it's so good to have a good, bright, vibrant Superman movie.
Yeah, a lot of people were complaining because I get them mixed up. I don't remember names, but people were saying this other one was darker and not as optimistic, and they're like, oh, I liked that Superman, and I'm like, if you want a darker hero, that's what Batman is. Superman is supposed to be optimistic and maybe even a little naive, but it works.
That's what I like. This movie is bright, not just tonally, but literally. After watching movies that are 3 inches away from being in black and white, it's nice to have a Superman movie that's bright and colourful. Superheroes. The DC universe is bright and wacky and crazy. That's what I like about this movie, by the way. It doesn't shy away from the fact that comic books, at their core, are incredibly silly. But they kind of lean into that and have fun with that.
Oh, I liked the colourful of, like, the river thing.
Oh, like an pocket dimension. Yeah, that's what I love. Or like, one of my favorite scenes is how we're having this emotional talk with Lois, and in the background, they're just fighting this random colorful alien thing.
Oh, yeah.
That was such a good scene. I love how the humor or the juxtaposition in this movie works so well. The tone is so bright and fun, and it's a movie and clearly a universe where we're not afraid, we're not embarrassed by the silliness that comics can sometimes have. We're going to embrace it, because that's one thing the DCU didn't always do, is it tried to play it too grounded, too realistic, too this, too that.
I'm like, can't be realistic. There's superheroes and aliens.
It's a superhero movie. That's one good thing you get about a pre-established world is we already know everything's bright and crazy, so let's just have fun with it. And that is something we've been missing. Like you said, there is a small fraction of insane fans who are like, we love the Snyderverse. No, I don't like watching superhero movies in black and white. I would prefer to watch something bright and colourful, thank you. And that is what this movie was. It was fun. Even if you can nitpick plot points about certain characters having too much screen time or not enough screen time, all the characters are acted well, the movie is fun. Throughout the whole movie, I was never bored. I was always smiling and I was always happy. And here's the thing, when I go into a movie theater, I can usually judge people in the background, whether they're familiar with stuff or unfamiliar, and all types of people were laughing, were smiling, were making little comments. I loved it.
Yeah.
And that's what mattered. This movie is fun. There's probably points we forgot to bring up. We didn't talk too much.
But we've gone so long that
we didn't talk much about, we talked a little bit about Jimmy, but that's about it.
He was alright. I did like that. I liked that he was a bit morally grey the way he was using Eve. Like, he didn't actually want a relationship with her, but he wanted the information.
One point somebody said is, maybe the reason he's so hesitant is because if you think about it, Eve almost feels like she's 3 seconds away from becoming Harley Quinn.
Yeah, maybe.
And maybe he knows that. Not literally, but in the sense of he knows that, okay, yes, he wants to get her away from Lex, and yes, he needs her to stop the greater evil. But after all is said and done, he probably also knows that she needs deep psychological help, and rushing into a relationship would be abusing that need.
But also, is he at the end when she ran to him, I was like, so at what point is he going to attempt to break up with her and she'll go nuts and whatever?
Yeah, somebody pointed out maybe he's so hesitant because he knows she's too much, or he knows that he's got emotional problems and she's emotionally attached to him. That's at least one favorite in his side.
I kind of want to know the backstory. How the hell did they meet? How the hell did she become attached to him?
I don't know. Because there's that one scene where, like, okay, I'm going to go meet with Source, and you just see him going through some shady alleyways, and there she is just hanging out there.
Yeah, but maybe it's one of those things where they won't tell us, and it's like, we don't need to know. It just is what it is.
Which, to be fair, happens a lot with this movie. You just kind of have to accept things. Like, you don't know, how did this Superman meet Green Lantern and Hawkgirl? How did Lois and Superman meet? Like, not only do you not have, say, the origin story of him coming to Earth, you don't have him, like, meeting Lois, falling in love, joining the Daily Planet.
Because you can just assume it's basically the same as other versions and just make it up.
Again, it's sort of like how, like I said, when you watch Supergirl, but you hear about the things Superman has done, you just hear tidbits and you're like, well, we just kind of have to put a piece of a puzzle together and assume what he's done. But the difference is, that time it made sense because it's not his story. This time it's like, what is Superman's story? It would be nice to know. How long has Lois known? How long did we get through this? And here's the thing, that is one thing a movie can't do, because Superman and Lois did that same thing, where it starts where they're already together, but there's one really good episode which is mostly a flashback, which shows him kind of, not his origin story, but at least shows him first when he goes to the Daily Planet and meets Lois.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
That was a good flashback, but that's one downside a movie can't give you, is movies, it's really hard for a movie to give backstory without feeling bloated or drying and so on.
Yeah.
Also, I always make a point of this, and lots of movies, I know there's even a website to it. Do you know what this movie doesn't have? What? There is no designated spot that I could argue was a toilet break.
Oh, yeah.
On one hand, that should be a good point. The pacing is so well that you can't, there's no point where you're like,
if you could watch it at home, great.
There's no point where you're like, oh no, I'm bored by this moment, or this is a bit of a dull scene. There's no point like that.
The problem is, if it's in theaters and you have to sit through it because you can't pause, you kind of want...
I guess if you were really stretching for it, I guess the point where he has that emotional scene with Lois and there's that alien in the background, that was a bit of a slow scene.
Yeah,
not
like
a bad
you could
scene, but that was probably
you could skip it and not be confused.
That's the slowest of the scenes, but even that was still good. But yeah, I do like that it captures stuff I love about Supergirl too, where it works in the politics of like people turning against superheroes or the aliens and so on. So again, it's got kind of a mixture of everything. Some people say it's got a bit too many things that we're trying to deal with, but I like that. I don't think there was anything that fell too much to the wayside. Some characters did, but for the most part, like I said, all in all, we're very happy with this.
Yeah, I was happy. It was fine. I enjoyed it. I wasn't bored. At first, I was worried, what if it's not my thing? But I was fine with it.
That's the thing. I knew I'd enjoy it because I'm like, I'll probably enjoy it. I was curious
you enjoy almost any DC stuff.
But I'm like...
Whereas I have a lot less
That's why I was happy to bring you into it, because I'm like, okay, you've seen chunks of the Arrowverse and you've seen maybe one or two random movies, but I'm like, you have a harder time getting into new things. You can be a bit bored sometimes for random things. But I thought, well, okay, this is something that, but that's why I thought this will be a good test audience too. You're someone with a little less experience, and also, given the fact that this is a semi-reboot, it's good to kind of throw you into the deep end too, because you're closer to the average audience member.
Yeah, and it worked just fine for me.
Exactly. It is an odd point that some people say it's a semi-reboot, but they've already got a pre-established world. But I kind of like that.
I don't mind it, yeah.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of infer some of the stuff.
Exactly, which is fine for most people, maybe not for everyone. But I feel like...
I've seen people talk about bringing their kids to it, and it's like, there's nothing outright inappropriate, it's just I feel like kids wouldn't understand it as well.
That's fine. Well, I don't mind that, because, like, also, kids, it's fine when, like, deeper level stuff goes over a kid's head. It's more, are you okay with, there is the occasional swearing moment, and there's a little bit of violence, nothing extreme.
Guy gets shot in the head.
That's true.
He's the real hero, because it was only after he got shot that the guy started crying.
That's a good point, yes.
Because before that, Superman tried to convince him and say, hey, just turn off the kryptonite, I can go get your baby. But it was only after the guy got shot, and then he starts crying, and it's like, that guy didn't do anything, and he killed him.
Exactly. But that scene works really well, both for that character and to just show you how ruthless this Lex is. That scene, and then obviously later when the crack is forming, and the people are like, even his own team members are like, okay, we should probably close the crack now. But then he was like, no, not till Superman's dead, no matter how much it takes.
Yeah. There were times where I wondered, how did Lex get all these such devoted followers to the point where nobody was like, wait, did you just say you're going to murder someone? Why am I supporting this?
Exactly. It's one thing. That's the thing. It's one thing when they can rally here, where he can rally people against Superman, because like, okay, he's good at twisting words to make it seem like Superman's a villain, or twisting words to make it seem like, why are we trusting an alien?
But the amount of people who are in on it and know about the pocket dimension,
and where we're
that means they're
and
like,
it's not aliens. There's regular
false imprisonment of like ex-girlfriends and whatever
there was
else.
regular people in there, not just aliens. With aliens, he can twist the words and make it seem like, well, why should we care about them? I can understand getting followers to do that.
Yeah, but if any of his people know about the pocket dimension, and why aren't any of them like, police, arrest Lex for false imprisonment, please?
Exactly. Exactly, that's the thing.
So yeah, it sounds ridiculous, but it made me wonder, how does he have those followers?
One thing I expected to happen, which doesn't, is instead of having his followers straight up turn against him, do you remember that near the very climax when Superman breaks into Lex's office, they're stopping the crack and all that bit, and then Superman gives this big speech to Lex about why everything's so good in the world, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I expected somebody in his office to be filming that, sort of as a parallel to when Eve filmed him breaking into the office the first time.
Oh, yes, that'd be a nice parallel to
then,
when he came, when he was like, give me the dog, and Lex was trying to spill it and spin it and be like, hey, look, he's attacking me.
Because, like, okay, the world saw Superman save them from falling buildings, but it would have been good for also the world to see that little speech to remind you just how much Superman believes in the world.
Whereas instead, what the world got was the article with the proof of what Lex was doing.
True, but
I did like that moment where Lex was like, no, what do I do? And I'm like, oh, if it isn't the truth, then the consequences of your own actions.
But also, if you think about it, the world still knows the message from Superman's parents. And as far as the world knows, that message...
Hopefully at this point, now that he's saved them again, maybe he can get the chance to put out a public message and explain, hey, I never saw the second half, it was lost, and hopefully they believe him.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it all hinges on the fact that, you know, they just assume he had the full message because the girl with Lex was able to recover the full version.
It's a story that... What I love about this Superman story, too, is you always worry when, as time moves forward and the modern world changes, how do we adapt stories for the modern age? I like that they didn't throw it in your face, but they really worked in the way the world works in modern days compared to, say, like earlier Superman stories where you couldn't have this kind of world suddenly hating Superman story in a world where we don't have instant news, instant articles.
Oh, yeah.
Articles where people are being vilified without direct crucifixion.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, even in real life, news will... Even before a court case is closed, users will now just instantly get articles about people and so on. So again, it's a story of Superman that works in the modern age and works naturally.
Yeah.
Anyway, is there any final points?
No.
Because we said we loved the story and we were happy.
It was great. I love it.
Okay, good. Because we probably rambled on for long and long and long.
Way too long.
Okay.
I dread to see the runtime of this.
That's fine. It's fine. We don't do reviews all the damn time, and we don't do movie reviews. And it's a movie. It's allowed to be long.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, well, with that being said, anything else?
No.
All right, well, with that being said, we'll see you next time for more movie reviews and other things as well.
See you next time, guys.